Hello and welcome to this program with me, Freek Robinson, here on LitNet. Universities are often seen as ivory towers, only accessible to the rich and, with government assistance, to the very poor. They have little relevance to the communities where they are. Well, the University of Johannesburg is challenging those perceptions. For the second year running, UJ has been ranked as the leading producer of accredited research outputs in South Africa. Our guest is Professor Sarah Gravett, Acting Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Research and Internationalisation at UJ. Welcome, Prof. You must be very proud.
Yes, indeed, we are very proud, but we are proud, rightly so, because it's due to commitment and hard work of many. This doesn't just happen. It means there were many academics who worked very hard, very committed. Also, our postgraduate students who contributed their part. We have postdoctoral research fellows who are contributing. And then we have good leadership in the research domain. So this is why I'm saying, yes, we can be proud.
All right. Who are your closest rivals in South Africa?
Well, at the moment, it's University of KwaZulu-Natal. In terms of, if I talk about research output specifically, the second one is UKZN. And then we have, the tradition that usually universities that usually do very well would be the rest.
UNIRAC, an agency, has placed you at number 7. So, but there are different yardsticks, of course, to decide what the award should be. So,
yeah,
in perspective, use yours specifically for research output.
Yeah, this is research output. And the research output that we are talking about here would be the research output that has been submitted by the Department of Higher Education and Training. They work through the submissions, and based on that, they indicate the accepted submissions of all the universities in the country. So this is a DHET outcome. But in terms of rankings in general, there are many different ranking systems, and each of them look at universities in a different way. So you would find that in some ranking systems, a university would be the top. But in another ranking system, the university would be number 5 or number 4. So you would find that the top 5, 6, 7 universities at the moment in South Africa would be present, but sometimes higher, sometimes lower. It depends on the ranking system.
How many of these units have they actually ranked you on?
Well, this, as I said, the research output units is something different. But if one talks about the ranking systems, let me give you an example. And I'm now talking about the international ranking systems, not what the DHET has used, because the DHET, what this is about the quantity that the university submitted in terms of research output for screening at the Department of Higher Education and Training. Of course, many universities, including UJ, also have other tracking mechanisms, because we believe it's not only about the quantity, but it's also about the quality. And we track the quality of our research output, looking at how much is published in international journals, how many are citations do we get, etc. That's another measure. But if we talk about the international ranking systems, let me give you an example. The QS rankings would look, for instance, at the reputation of a university. It will look at the research output. It will look at the number of international students. It will look at how well student or the perceptions of future employers of students, and all of that would then contribute to where one is ranked. Now, in many of these systems, you would find disadvantage younger universities, because, for instance, the QS rankings, 60% is about reputation, and reputation is about how well you are known. And therefore, if a university is a young university, it is less well known. And if one, for instance, think about those universities that always come top in the world, Harvard, the MITs, etc., nobody doubts that they are excellent universities, but it's also because they built a reputation over hundreds of years.
Now, just give us an indication of what is meant by outputs.
Okay, output, yeah. So research output is measured in terms of research units. Now, one full article with one author would mean, which would mean 1 unit of research output. And then you would have different units that would be attached to books, etc., depending on how many authors there would be in a book, etc. So a unit is, the easiest way to explain it is one article would be 1 unit.
But is that proper research? I can hardly imagine that you can just write one page and that is good enough to earn you.
No, one article in a accredited journal. No. And accredited research journal would be one on a list that is approved by the Department of Higher Education and Training. And here we're talking about peer-reviewed, all articles that are published in such journals are peer-reviewed, which means, and blind peer-reviewed, they are reviewed by at least 2 other academics in the world. And then also they are screened internally also before they are submitted to the Department of Higher Education and Training. So if we talk about a unit as a research journal article, we're talking about substantive articles.
Is it quantity over quality?
Some would argue that one might be chasing quantity. I think quantity is important because whether we like it or not, we are in a world where there's competition. And therefore, quantity is viewed as important. Secondly, also, funding is related to quantity, funding that we receive from the Department of Higher Education and Training. Having said that, no, it can't only be quantity because it is, if it's only quantity, it might mean that this research is really of little value, not only for so-called blue sky research, but also value for society. And secondly, as I said, it is very important for us also at UJ to look at how many times are these articles read by other academics in the world. You look at citations, how many times are they being quoted? One looks at the quality of the journals because you do have different tiers of journals. You have the journals that are viewed as in a higher tier with high impact, and you have journals with that are lower impact journals. Lower impact journals that would still be of good quality, but it means they are often quoted less from those journals. So it's absolutely important that one does not only aim for quantity, but that you are very, very aware of quality and that you track it. And we do it annually. We track the quality of the research output.
What was driving this growth?
Okay, of course, we expect, as many universities would do, that all academics must be involved in teaching and must be involved in research, because your teaching and your research must also be informing one another, to put it that way. So it's about all academics. Secondly, we found this year in the analysis that our professors really did very, very well. They exceeded what is expected of the university of them to publish. Then we also found this year, and it started last year, that many of our postgraduate students are publishing more than in the past. And we also found that our associate professors are also doing very well. Then we also have some postdoctoral research fellows who contribute to the research output. Having said that, the university also invests a lot of funding into research. So we try to support researchers so that they are able to do their research, and that is done via funding, firstly, but also via other structures and processes within the university that are put into place to support the researchers. We are very well aware that you can't expect great output if you are not also willing to give great input in terms of support to researchers.
But why specifically have you had this good performance over the past 2 years? Was it a strategy that you would go for the quantity?
No, it's been since the inception of UJ, and there's actually a very, very interesting infographic that illustrates this very well, that how we increased our research output since the inception of UJ. Each year, a little more, a little more, a little more, more. So it was a gradual increase. Last year, we were also first in the country, and UKZN was second in the country. But so it's building over many years. It's not a sudden thing and a sudden miracle that happened.
Why did you decide to have this kind of strategy?
Universities do two things mainly. They also do other things. They are supposed to be generating knowledge, and your knowledge in universities are generated through research, and then we do, of course, teaching and learning. So it's part of our mandate as a university to do research. Something new that we've added during the last few years, and particularly now, and this is also something that we are tracking, is that we are saying we want our research not to be only research that is read by other academics, very important, it's part of being an academic, but we also tracking whether our research has the potential to make societal impact. And the way that we do that is by tracking how many of our research units, to use a term that we discussed before, that are published are linked to the Sustainable Development Goals, because that gives us a good sense of whether the research also has the potential to be relevant to society.
Can you name a few of the outputs that impressed you?
UJ has been doing very well in research in around technology. You know, at some stage, people would refer to UJ as the Fourth Industrial Revolution University. We prefer now to rather use, we still use that term, but technology for the future. That is something that we really do very well within UJ, and this is why we also track that. How many of our research output units relate to technology, and technology for the future, for the betterment of society. But then we have in all our faculties so-called SARCHI chairs. Those are South African Research, National Research Foundation chairs. And these chairs all have a very specific focus, and they are are called National Research Foundation chairs because the National Research Foundation would be funding them due to a niche area that is being developed within the university. We have research chairs in engineering. We have research chair for social change, for instance, in humanities. We have a research chair on childhood education. And so there are many such research chairs, and those research chairs are also significant contributors to research within the university.
Let's talk about relevance. It must be probably one of your goals to see to it that research will come to something and make a difference in the community. Can you name something, for instance?
Yeah, indeed. It's absolutely important for us that our research must contribute something to the community. And this is why I said we also track whether our research is linked in some way to the Sustainable Development Goals. And that gives you an indication whether they have potential to impact society. I can mention quite a few of such of projects that have had significant impact. I'm thinking about research around vulnerable children, and this was done around through the one SACHI chair on our Soweto campus, National Research Foundation chair, and then also the Center for Social Development. That's, for instance, an example. But then what we are particularly also proud of is that we take our research, but combine it also with community engagement. And here we have some projects that we help rural towns to develop, to become, in some case, we can give an example of one town that we've helped to become basically a smart village. And what we did there within the university, and it was under the leadership of the Faculty of Engineering, but now many other faculties are involved, is in a very remote rural area where there was no very little access to water, electricity, no shops really. Help them to start a bakery. We help them with electricity, sun panels, etc., etc. You know, I can't talk about the technical detail, but what we are saying is our research must have the potential for societal impact, or most definitely could lead to societal impact. And the reason why I'm saying that we also do research that have the potential is you also do basic research that you won't see the immediate applicability to society, but that research often forms the basis for your research that has societal impact.
Anything perhaps that made international headlines?
Something that I maybe can mention, and again, it's linking research also to the work that is done in faculties, not only research related, is that we have doing research on printing of houses, you know, concrete printing, being done. And then we have a wonderful new project on our Doornfontein campus related to health sciences, where we would have the best facilities, definitely in Africa, and one of the best facilities in the world for emergency medicine. So those are the type of things that we do.
Your field of expertise is education. Have you yourself produced some of these units?
I've done many years. I'm involved currently in quite a number of projects, but the ones that have been really drawing attention, I would like to mention. One is that we used mixed reality simulation for teacher training. So the students learn specific skills in relation to teaching through interacting with avatars. And we find that is working extremely well, because you can, in teacher education, do this type of skills training with the students and these children who are avatars in a way that you can't do immediately in a classroom. And the research that we've conducted on it indicates to us that the students find this is a safe space for them in which they can learn skills that they would not necessarily be able to do with live children immediately. Yes, of course, later they need to interact with the children, but they say we can't harm a child if we are not doing well. So this mixed reality simulation research, we started with last year. It's now becoming bigger, and it's something that we are driving to understand how mixed reality simulation can be used within teacher education to improve the quality of teachers. We are also doing research around coding and robotics for teachers. In our case, we don't think we need to prepare all teachers to be able to do coding and robotics for teaching purposes. But what we teach them is how to use coding and robotics to enrich their own teaching, how they can bring it into their own classrooms. And then the research that we've conducted over many, many years, and it's probably the research that I and many of my colleagues who've worked well along with me for many years have become very well known for, is when UJ was established, we started a school on our Soweto campus, which serves the same type of function that a teaching hospital serves for teaching health practitioners. So we call this a teaching school on our Soweto campus. This is unique in the country. And this one, I can say to you, we have even received an international award for this work that we've been doing with teacher education, using such a teaching school on our Soweto campus. And it's also a place where we conduct research.
I was about to ask you specifically about the international scene. Do you compare with other universities in the quality and quantity of your research?
If you talk about the university as a whole, yes, absolutely. Say again?
Internationally.
Yeah, internationally, we do. If one again looks at the international rankings and you look at how UJ has climbed over the years in the international rankings, and that we are in some ranking systems, it depends which ranking systems you look at, where there are many thousands of universities that are ranked, that we have moved significantly through those systems, and that we are often in the high numbers of these ratings. Of course, we can't compete with the Harvards and the MITs, etc. That we will never be able to do. But our increase of our footprint is indeed recognized also internationally. And one of the reasons why we also know that is that we get many, many universities who come now to us and request us for collaboration. Our Vice-Chancellor makes the joke. He says, a few years ago, let's say 10, 15 years ago, when you told people you are from UJ, they would say, you who? Now we have many universities in the world who come to us to say, we've heard about the work that you are doing, and specifically your societal impact of your work, and we want to collaborate with you. Here I could maybe mention that one of the ranking systems, the Times Higher Education ranking system, has impact and sustainability rankings, where they look at exactly this, the impact of universities in terms of the sustainability development goals. With regard to the impact rankings, we are, Times Higher Education, we are 46th in the world and #1 in South Africa. And here I'm talking about societal impact in relation to the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, if one looks at the Sustainable Development Goals, there are 17 of them. And the goal of no poverty, which basically indicates what does a university do to address poverty and to contribute even with regard to research on how to address poverty. We are #1 in South Africa, and again, we are #1 in the world for that one. So if you ask me, do we compete internationally? Yes, particularly in terms of the Times Higher Education rankings, but also in all the other rankings. And let me maybe say something about rankings. No university should be aiming to climb in rankings, because then you are chasing something instead of trying to focus that you do good research, that your teaching and learning is of a high standard, that you serve society well. But whether one likes it or not, we are being ranked in the world. And people look at these rankings and they draw certain conclusions based on rankings. So it has become part of our world as academics, whether we like it or not.
But now you're moving into administration and management, it seems, at the university. Is this kind of a turning point for you where you must make a choice?
No, not at all. I was Dean of the Faculty of Education for 15 years. So I was, in other words, in management of the university for 15 years. When I finished my third term as Dean, I indicated, well, I had a so-called fallback position, which means you can go back again into becoming a professor, focusing on teaching and learning, your research. And that is what I plan to do. I love my students. I have many postgraduate students. I really looked forward to be an academic again. But then I was requested by our Deputy Vice-Chancellor, by our Vice-Chancellor, Prof. Mpedi, when the Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Research and Internationalisation left UJ, to stand in. So I am standing in at the moment. It's been a while now of standing in, but I love my university. And when your university calls you to do certain things, you don't say no.
But it seems you have less trouble than some of the other universities, for instance, Stellenbosch and even Wits. Why is that?
We've been deliberate in building good relationships with our students, also the student leadership, which is not always easy. But that's a deliberate strategy. And by that, I'm not saying we won't ever have protests, but we are trying our best to address issues before they may explode. And so far, so good.
Thank you very much. Fantastic. Thank you very much for giving us your time and all of the best for your program and your projects.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.